You know the scene, right? A cat just strolling along the top of a super narrow fence, not a care in the world. It's the perfect picture of grace. And for, well, forever, we've given all the credit to their long, swishy tail. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? What if the real secret to their incredible balance is hiding somewhere we never thought to look?
And that's really the big question, isn't it? We see the tail whipping around, so we just assume it's doing all the heavy lifting. But is it the engine, or is it more like the car's flashy tailpipe? Is it the source of the balance, or just a beautiful, dramatic sign of something much, much smaller and more precise happening deep inside?
Okay, so let's start with the idea that's been around forever. It's the one we all know and accept, what you could call the balancing pole myth. It's the go-to explanation for how cats are so unbelievably agile.
The image just makes so much sense in our heads. You picture a tightrope walker holding that long pole to stay steady, and then you see a cat on a ledge, its tail swinging side to side, and you think, same thing. It feels so obvious, so logical. But is it actually what's happening?
So this is really the heart of the debate. On one side, you have the old-school belief the tail is a heavy counterweight, and the magic is happening at the very end of it. But on the other side, there's this new, kind of radical idea. The tail isn't a weight at all, it's just an indicator. And the real action, well, that's happening right at the base. It's a tiny shift in where we look, but it changes everything. All right, so let's put that old tightrope walker idea under a microscope for a second. Because once you start really looking at it, some pretty major cracks start to show up. The whole theory starts to wobble a bit. Okay, first big problem, it's just simple physics. I mean, think about a cat's tail. It's mostly fluff, some skin, and some really lightweight little bones. Is that really heavy enough to counterbalance a whole cat's body? The math just doesn't work. It's like trying to balance a bowling ball with a feather.
And here it is. This is the real knockout punch to the old theory. What about cats that don't even have tails? You've got whole breeds like the Manx, or even just cats that have lost their tails in an accident. And guess what? They are just as graceful. They leap, they pounce, they balance on a dime. If the tail was so critical, these guys would be tumbling all over the place, but they're not.
So, with the old theory full of holes, enter our hero, a researcher named Hiroyuki Yamauchi. He looked at all these inconsistencies and came up with a completely different way to think about how cats balance. He calls it the tail base handle.
This quote from him really just flips the entire idea on its head. He's basically saying we've all been watching the wrong thing. That big, dramatic sweep of the tail isn't the cause of the balance, it's the result. It's like a giant visual echo of a tiny, almost invisible movement happening right where the tail begins. So I want you to completely forget about the long, flowing part of the tail for a moment. Yamauchi's idea is that the real control system is like a tiny, super precise joystick right near the cat's pelvis. This little handle is what's actually steering the cat, making these minute adjustments with incredible accuracy. Okay, so how on earth does this tiny handle actually work? Let's dive into the nitty-gritty, into the anatomy of how a cat stays so perfectly stable. It's pretty amazing how such a small movement can have such a massive effect. It turns out the true command center isn't the tail at all. It's this little junction box where the tail meets the body. We're talking about the pelvis, a bone called the sacrum, which is just a little triangular bone at the bottom of the spine and literally the first centimeter of the tail. That tiny area is the control tower for the whole operation.
And get ready for this, because this part is what really blew my mind. According to the research, the entire range of motion needed in that spot to keep a cat perfectly balanced is just 2 to 3 millimeters. That's it, 2 to 3 millimeters. It's a tiny, almost imperceptible little twitch, and that's all it takes.
So it all happens in a flash, in 3 quick steps. First, the brain feels a little wobble and sends a signal down. Second, the sacrum makes that tiny 2 to 3 millimeter adjustment, the action. And third, the long tail acts like a giant lever, amplifying that tiny little input into the big sweeping motion we all see. We've been watching the output, the grand finale, while completely missing the input, the real source of the magic.
So, this discovery completely changes how we should be looking at a cat's tail. It's not some simple, clumsy weight. No, it's an incredibly sophisticated and complex piece of equipment with a few different jobs.
Turns out, the tail is wearing a few different hats. First, it's an amplifier, making those tiny little hip movements big and visible. Second, it's a sensor, constantly sending data back to the brain about its position. And third, it's a trigger, helping to kickstart that incredible twisting motion that lets a cat always land on its feet.
It's not a balancing pole, it's a high-tech multi-tool.
So here it is, the big takeaway. The real secret to a cat's supernatural balance isn't in its tail, it's in its hips. So here's a little challenge for you. The next time you see a cat walking along a fence or the back of a couch, do me a favor. Try to ignore the big, flashy tail. Instead, focus your eyes right on its base, right where it meets the body. That's where the real magic show is happening.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? We've lived side by side with cats for thousands of years, and we've been misunderstanding something so fundamental about them this whole time. It really makes you wonder, what other incredible animal secrets are out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to stop and look just a little bit closer?